we are live. All right. So, hi guys, a very good morning. I am Sachin Kapoor. I'll be your host from Geeks for Geeks, and today we are having a very special guest, Anusha with us. So, hi Anusha, how are you doing?
Hello, hi. Good morning, Sachin. I'm good. How are you today?
All good, all good. Thank you so much. So, Anusha has joined us from Mumbai, right? So, how's the weather over there,
That is
Anusha?
sticky and sweaty as always, but yeah, it's getting pleasant slowly.
All right. So, I guess here also it's drizzling a bit, and it feels actually good. So, to our viewers, Anusha is having an amazing experience into the field of sales and recruitment as well. So, she's been a part of some amazing companies in the past, like Michael Page and LinkedIn. And as of now, she's associated with Oracle as a senior sales manager, right?
That's correct. And thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here,
Yeah,
and I look forward to this conversation.
amazing, amazing. All right. So, Anusha, you're having a plethora of experience into sales, right? So, let's just begin this conversation from sales itself. So, what sales mean to you, and what do you think? How tough or easy is it to work in this domain?
That's a very interesting question. So I might have to start a little from the beginning on that.
Sure.
Originally I wasn't planning on getting into sales at all. So if you look at my past, my MBA is in HR. Post which I don't know how, but fate got me to sales. But now
Okay.
intent keeps me in sales, while fate got me here. And how difficult or easy? See, there's never a straight
Yeah.
answer which says easy because nothing is ever easy. Even if
Yeah.
it's HR, even if it's sales, even if it's marketing, any field that you take, even if it's, I'm sure,
Mhm.
astrophysics, difficult at the beginning, but as you do it, it gets easier and easier. But yeah, that's why you take up new
Sure.
challenges, right? So I wouldn't say it's easy or
Correct.
difficult, but you need to put that effort to learn the tricks of the trade and get better at it
Mhm.
each day, because if you stop doing that, it just keeps staying difficult. It never gets
Correct.
easy, right? So for the game to
Yeah.
get easy, you need to learn the game. That's my input. But yeah, I'm sure I'll talk a lot more about my journey as we go through the questions.
Sure, sure, sure. So, just adding on to my question, how important do you think is for a person to be a part of sales at least once?
Oh, very important. And I had never thought I'll say this at the beginning of my career. But now I
Yeah.
do feel it's important because it opens your mind up to a lot broader avenues in terms of how you
Uh,
think about a situation, how you
mhm.
really assess your job or your role in a particular organization. Because then you get a more wider and zoom out view of how businesses work. How do really
Yeah.
people think? Because in sales, you're technically dealing with people, but at the same time you
Mhm.
need to keep business in mind. How do you really help them increase revenue? In the end, all companies are thinking about are control your bottom line, increase your top line, right? So how do you really think on those lines is something that sales teaches you really well, right? And if anybody has done that role once, I think they become more street smart and worldly wise at the same time.
So I can relate myself. I actually being a part of growth in sales, growth in Geeks for
Yeah.
Geeks actually. I've been a part of sales also. So I believe, as you clearly mentioned, apart from the professional growth, I believe sales helps you out to grow personally as well, right? If I
Yes.
talk about just one thing which I feel was very important was resilience. Facing
Yes.
setbacks and rejections on daily basis, no, makes you persistent and adaptable. So it is one of the, I
Absolutely.
believe, is not even a skill; it's a life skill,
I
right?
have to agree with you on that. Yeah,
Yeah.
resilience and perseverance. It does teach you that. Yes.
So the first thing I would say that comes to the mind of any fresher or anyone per se, if we talk about sales, is the work-life balance, right? So I guess you are a working woman and also a mother right now, right? So
Yes.
how do you manage both? So what is your work-life balance?
Yeah. So a lot of people might think that, oh, getting into sales, you travel a lot, and how do you really handle the work life balance, right?
Yeah.
And that was my thought too. Before I got into sales, right? And even at the
Okay.
beginning of sales, that was my exact thought process. But I think as you grow
Mhm.
into the role and as you understand the nicks and knacks of how you work around the role and how do you really achieve the revenues that you're given to achieve, the budgets, etc., right? you realize that maybe sales is a more work-life balance induced role if you plan better. Again, you can never
Okay.
plan it because it's sales in the end and it's dependent on so many stakeholders around you. It's not just one
Yeah.
stakeholder you deal with, you're dealing with stakeholders, companies, and lots of parameters that are moving pieces of a puzzle, right? But having said that,
Right.
at least majority of the times I get to plan my time. A salesperson
Yeah.
is the only person who can actually come home at 3 p.m. and restart working
Mhm.
at 6 p.m. if they want to. Nobody else can do that. People have to go to office at 9 a.m. and come back at whatever time their office ends, right? Or whenever their work
Right.
gets over. But salesperson is the
Yeah.
only person who can work remotely from anywhere and plan their customer meetings according to their
Yeah.
calendar and schedule. So yeah, that
Yeah.
has really helped manage my mother side and professional side. So I have a 3-year-old son. He's just started his
Yeah.
nursery. And
Great.
yeah, very needy. He's a boy, so very, very needy. But that's okay. The whole point of being in sales is that, I guess, where I can plan my time. So like today I'm
Yeah.
working from home. I go to office 3 times a week. I try to
Yeah.
plan my Mondays and Fridays from home so that I can end my
Yeah.
day earlier. Or maybe if I have work, I take a break for 1.5 hour. I spend time with him. I get back to work. So yeah,
Okay.
see, you have to be active in your life to get to all of this. So I
Absolutely.
have a
Absolutely.
strict fitness regime right now in life and all of that.
Mhm.
All of that really contributes to me being more active at work and home at the same time and not reaching any sort of burnout. So that's a trick that I'm doing. But yeah, it's not always. There are always times where you have 80-20, like they say, where sometimes you
Uh-huh.
have to give your 80 to work and 20 to home, and the other way around as well, and maybe 100 at work on some days and 100 at home on some days. It's about work life balance is never 50-50. Whoever says that
Yeah.
is still learning, I guess, because it is very much,
Correct.
there are days where it's 100 0 and 0 100, the other way around as well. I think you need to find that mantra in your life. I wouldn't say I found it. It's just I've learned that this is what it is, and I'm trying to practice that in my life as far as I can. So yeah, that's my secret right now.
Great, great, good to know. So, as we say, as we begin our professional journey, within somewhere in 20s, and what I believe is by the late 30s, the career is very much demanding. So, are you having any, as you already gave a few of them, but is there any else secret mantra for the people who've just started their careers, like how to, juggle between their work and life?
See, honestly, when you begin your careers, right, you're generally
Mm,
living with your parents or,
yeah,
or living by yourself, whatever it is, right? You're generally, at least
yeah,
not married. I know
yeah,
nowadays that's also a
correct.
choice. So it's completely a choice, but at least you have your
It
own
is.
life, you have your own time, right?
Mm,
The only way to have a sort of routine or some sort of planning, that's the only way to
mm,
survive it. Because I've also been in companies like Michael Page, etc. That was the early times of my career, right? And it's very demanding. I have had times when I was working till 2 a.m., 3 a.m.s in, let's say, a Tata, to, let's say, working every day from 8:30 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. as like my schedule every day. So I've done all of
yeah.
that, plus partied hard and worked out and done everything, right? So I know that might seem like a flex, but at the time it was very painful. I was crying blood tears at that time. I was like, why am I doing this to myself? But if you don't do that whole struggle, or rather persevere in the first 6 7 years of your career, then
Yeah.
you're directionless later. The whole point is
Mm,
you
makes
need
sense.
to have a thrust, just like a rocket that needs to go into space. You need to have that thrust in the beginning to then sail more
Absolutely.
smoothly. Right now, I don't think I work beyond 6:30 right now, unless obviously if
Okay.
there's a deal and a customer is calling me, I'm available
Yeah.
anytime. I'm available
Yeah.
24/7. But that doesn't
Yeah.
happen every day, right? It might happen twice in a month, and that's okay. I mean, yeah, that's work life balance for you. But yeah,
Mhm.
otherwise people understand that I'm not available after 6:30 because I have my son, etc. If it's important, you text me, and I think it's important, I'll
Mhm.
come back to you, right? So I'm vigilant of my work mobile. So first thing is
Mm.
I maintain two mobiles for a reason,
Okay.
because I want to keep my work
Okay.
and personal life separate.
Definitely.
And
Definitely. Yeah, I can
yeah, a
relate.
lot of people don't do that. It's damn helpful. Trust me, you need to do that. But yeah, anybody starting, I have to say, somewhere you might really feel like, oh, I don't have work life balance, but it'll come. It'll eventually come once you learn the ropes of the trade, because in the beginning you're just fresh out of college, you don't know anything. My perspective when I was out of college was, I just need to learn, right? If I don't
Mm,
learn, then I don't have a way forward. I don't even know how corporate
mm.
works. I don't even know what I'm
Yeah.
supposed to do to get where I want to be, and I don't even know where I want to be. It's a blank canvas, plain canvas
Yeah.
at that time, right?
Yeah.
So really navigating all of that, one is obviously making a schedule and persevering, etc., but also having a mentor. Find a mentor early on in your career and your way
Mhm.
sorted, because I had a couple of seniors who are helping me understand things around how to work around the company, how to work around your role, how to really do what is career planning, how to do is the second
Mm,
step, what is career
mm.
planning, etc., right? Nowadays with social media being so rampant, people are already aware of many of these things before stepping into their first job, which wasn't the case at
Yeah.
that time. Unfortunately, I didn't have social media. Orkut was all that was there, I remember, when we were stepping in,
Yeah.
which is so sad. I feel old
Correct.
saying that. But yeah, now at least there's information at your fingertips. So I think
Yeah.
doing your work before joining these whole online courses, there's LinkedIn Learning, there's Coursera. Every company that I've worked at has offered a online learning of how to really get into the workspace, etc. So I know it seems like a lot. Even if you do 50% of all of this, you'll be there.
Mm.
It's just about at
Yeah.
least taking that first two steps. Many people are like, itna karna hai, then let me not do anything. It's about at least doing something, and that should
Yeah.
suffice really.
Great, great, great. So, let's talk about the fun part of it. As you mentioned, you get to travel a lot, right? And I have got to know that you've traveled a lot yourselves. What do you think is the impact of traveling onto the overall development of a person?
So little bit of backdrop for that is, I'm
Yeah.
originally from Hyderabad. My
Okay.
father was in the central government, so we traveled around. So I've lived in Kolkata, I've lived in Hyderabad, Mumbai. So these are three
Okay.
locations that I've hardcore lived in, and my
All
native
right.
is Vizag. So yeah,
Okay.
I'm pan Indian right now, and I worked in both Hyderabad, Mumbai, and Delhi for
Okay.
more than 5 years each. All right,
Mm-hmm.
minimum and more.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, this is my third stint in Mumbai. So I've literally come back 3 times to Mumbai, and this is my 12th year or something in Mumbai. I've lived in Gurgaon for 5 years. So
Okay.
just giving you that backdrop when you ask me that question that you've traveled. So I've had to change schools, had to change houses multiple times, cities multiple times. It just kept happening in my life. In the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, it felt very tough, as always.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is hard when you start, but later you start enjoying it because you're like, wow, I get to meet new people, and because of that, I'm great at building new relationships outstart, and
Yeah.
that's great for sales, right? So it works very well for me as a skill personally. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of exposure that you get to different cultures, different kind of people,
Mm-hmm.
and also how do you really start a relationship from scratch anywhere and everywhere when you reach. It's a huge skill that has helped me personally,
Mm-hmm.
and which I see slightly missing in people who've lived in only one place throughout. Again, they might have their own
Yeah.
skills as to how to really go
Correct.
long term, right? So it's a
Yeah.
different skill, but there are benefits to having traveled around and moved around, not just places, but I've also moved around in industries, etc. Maybe it's because
Exactly.
of how my life has been. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it's been a habit that once I'm done with an industry, but what do I mean by done is once I feel like I've learned enough and I've taken what I need to in my career,
Yeah.
which is adding to my personal profile, then I feel, okay, what next, right? And I start mapping out, these are the industries that I can go to, and these are the X industries that I'm interested in, and how do I go?
Mhm.
And this
Yeah.
thought process wasn't there when I started my career. I thought, oh, once you go into this industry, you're stuck, right? But
Yeah.
Michael Page taught me differently because I had thousands of resumes that I looked at, and all at CXO
Correct.
levels. And
Yeah.
what that teaches you is, oh, career is not really linear. You don't need to take one single path. You can jump around. You
Yeah.
can take a linear path. It is completely your call. You can take
Yeah.
different paths in the same company as well. You can do a lot of cross-functional learning, and it doesn't go to waste ever. Like I feel like even today, whatever I've learned in all my other jobs really comes to play, because there are skills that you pick up. It is not a role that you learn. These are skills that you start adding to your hat, right? And
Yeah.
that really helped me personally. And even now, when I go to a customer, there's so much more to talk about. Unless I had said, "Huh, I'm from the same industry. I've been here." Conversation ends.
Yeah.
My conversation never
Correct.
ends. There's at least 15
Correct.
minutes
Correct.
of, "Oh, okay, why are you here?" That is their first question, and I always have a logic to it. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun, and I like doing that. And I believe in work hard, party harder, and that is the whole reason you're able to endure those long hours, etc. You need to find your tribe in your office as well, because you spend more than 80% of your time in office. So if you
Right.
don't have a tribe
Absolutely.
that you actually chill with, yeah, it
Yeah.
becomes very boring.
So yeah, this is something which I would say we also try to keep the similar motto over here at Geeks for Geeks, that we do
Wonderful.
work hard, but yeah, we also party hard. So as you clearly
That's it.
mentioned about your career switch, right? So I just wanted to know, is it difficult, or what is the scenario when you make a career switch after a certain number of years or at a certain stage of your life? So how easy or difficult is making a career switch? Let's say you
Okay.
were into HR initially, then you move on to sales, and initially I believe it's service sales. Then you went on to the product sales. So yeah, what's the scenario and how easy or difficult again it is?
So, nothing is easy, but it's not extremely difficult as well. It's just
Okay.
about, I know you must have heard this a million times, right place, right time. But how does that
Yeah.
happen? What is the formula to it? Is whenever I started looking, I would never be like, you should never move when you're desperate to move, because then you're
Okay.
never going to be able to change industry or get what you want. Because when you're desperate,
Okay.
you're clouded by मुझे अभी job change चाहिए. That never works. So
Yeah.
I believe that I only like to change my job when I'm
Uh-huh.
extremely successful where I am. Otherwise, I don't
Mhm.
change my job. So I'm like, okay, I'm
All
getting
right.
promotions, everything's going my way. I'm like, oh, let me change. So I know that works counter for me,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
always happened like that. That I'm at the helm of where I am in a company, and that's when I decide that everything's going my way, nothing can go wrong
Uh-huh.
now. And
Uh-huh.
I have this policy that you always keep your eyes and ears open. You should not
Mhm.
look for a job when you want a job. If somebody wants
Yeah.
to talk to you, it's okay to have a conversation. Never treat a
Okay.
first conversation with a company as an interview. There's nothing called an interview. You're interviewing them, they're interviewing you. Don't think that they are interviewing. Nobody's interviewing you. You're also evaluating them and they're evaluating you, right? And if you keep that perspective open, what happens is that there's a shift in how you change. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
let me just have a conversation. Let me ask the right questions. Because when you're thinking of it as an interview, you're under pressure. You're like, oh my God,
Correct.
I need to answer this question correct. I need to ask XYZ questions that I found on Google as a list. Doesn't work. You need to ask the questions that matter to you. For example, for me, at some point, work life balance was the most important. Then later,
Uh,
career pathing and how this role is going to shape out was more important. So, depending on what was important for me at which time, I would keep my ears and eyes open. And trust me, I don't know how I got into Oracle because generally people outside the industry don't get in. It just happened that I
uh-huh.
applied, they called me, I interviewed,
Yeah.
and I got it. And trust me, there is no more crazy story to this. That's it. That was a story. But when I came in, I realized I was the only woman in a team of some 9 men, my manager being a man,
Okay.
everybody. And I was like, oh, wow, diversity is low out here. But recently they're focusing. There's a lot of women who've joined. It's awesome for me. But yeah, I was the
Uh-huh.
first one to join and I was a little surprised. And everybody had way more experience than I come with. And that was slightly
Okay.
shocking, at the same time exciting, because I was like, okay, that's interesting. That means they found me worthy of really joining here, and I'll learn a lot more than I have. And the learning has been immense in the last 1 year. So, long story short, you need to keep your eyes and ears open throughout. Even if you're happy in a role, you should just keep talking to professionals outside,
Yeah.
keep networking. And Michael Page taught me networking in the true sense, and it has been
All
extremely
right.
helpful across my career.
Great. Amazing. Amazing. So, backtracking a bit to your career, right? So let's talk about LinkedIn. I guess you are having an amazing experience being a part of LinkedIn. So if
Yeah.
there are some insights which you can share to our viewers, or let's say some hidden hacks of LinkedIn, or if there are a few mistakes which you feel like people have been making out there. So if you can
Oh,
suggest something
yeah.
to our viewers.
Oh, I can tell you so many because that was my job. Pointing out mistakes to my customers on what they do on LinkedIn was my job. I was paid for it.
All right.
So, yes, I can tell you. And I used to speak to a lot of freshers also at that time because when I would go to a
Uh-huh.
company, it's not just the seniors that I would deal with. I'd be like, hey, what are you, the other guys doing? So, by the way, I was into
Okay.
enterprise sales in LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
which means that I was
Mm-hmm.
selling to enterprises your LinkedIn recruiter, LinkedIn marketing solutions, LinkedIn sales solutions across the entire product suite that they have. And but yes, when you go and consult and you tell them what are they doing correct, you also help them. We have something called something called Rock Your LinkedIn Profile, which means that how
Okay.
do you really rock your profile? I could actually do a 20-minute session on it right now, but I'm not going to. We can do that separately. But
No,
couple
we'll
of
keep it a separate session for that for sure.
yes, yes. But a couple of things that I would say as an observation is people don't update their LinkedIn profile properly. They don't put the bare minimum. Either they make it a curriculum vitae or they
Mm-hmm.
make it really short and there's nothing in it, just titles. There is no proper mugshot photo. So, technically,
Yeah.
right now, I'm sure we all know before our resume is opened, our LinkedIn profile
Yeah.
is open. It's important
Correct.
to get
Yeah.
this into our head. A lot of people don't get this, that our resume is not as important as our LinkedIn profile, and people are lazy about
Okay.
updating it, putting the right dates, putting the right information, maybe writing a
Mm-hmm.
small three-liner, four-liner about your profile under each of the experiences. So these are typical mistakes that I see happen, and there are pictures
Mm-hmm.
which are hardly visible or
Yeah.
pictures which are like non-professional. So yeah, these are the usual mistakes that I see happen. The
Mm-hmm.
main four important things: good picture, great headline,
Okay. Okay.
updated fields, and at least a
Okay.
short summary, because nobody here is a psychic who's going to guess what you've done. It's better to just
Yeah.
spell it out,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
if you have these things in your LinkedIn, you're good to
Mm-hmm.
go. And as a fresher, because you asked about freshers, it is very important that you're active on LinkedIn, reaching out to people. And but when you reach out, don't just say, hey, is there any job for me? That is
Yeah.
so the wrong way. It's a turn off. You
Yeah.
have to research. You have to do your research. Have a pitch, elevator pitch ready. Just like there's a
Mm-hmm.
verbal elevator pitch, you need a written elevator pitch, which can be just 5 lines talking about, hey, this is what I'm great at. This is what I saw as a position. I see you're in this company. Can you please help me? That's so much better because they feel, oh, at least you've researched, right? And reaching out to the right people,
Yeah.
not just anybody. You need to know you reach out to the HRs, the talent acquisition, right? With the right
Correct.
pitch. Many times
Yeah.
jobs have the talent acquisition person tagged. These
Okay.
smaller things, people don't put an effort. People are like, hey, please put me through to any jobs that you think I'm relevant for. Why am I
Yeah.
supposed to check that? I'm not going to,
Correct.
right? Yeah. So that's my tip.
Absolutely. All right. So I hope it's an important piece of information for all our viewers. So as you mentioned about the freshers, so, I've heard it a lot many times, even when we used to be in college. So is there any right time of making a profile on LinkedIn? So students used to be like, it's like यार अभी तो फर्स्ट ईयर है, सेकेंड ईयर है, अभी क्या करना है लिंक्डइन पर जाके, अभी जब जॉब चाहिए होगा तब जाएंगे ना, थर्ड ईयर में बनाएंगे, फोर्थ ईयर में बनाएंगे. So is there
Right.
any separate or a specific time to come on to LinkedIn, or it's like what would you like to suggest the audience out there?
Um, See, I don't have a straight answer to this, but I'll give you my
Yeah.
perspective because that's what
Okay.
I can offer out here. Ideally, first job would be perfect because you have something to talk about. But even before your
Yeah.
first job, sometimes you might want to scout for your own jobs, right?
Correct. Correct.
I think the people who are saying "abhi kya banana" are maybe not doing enough in their college, because nowadays I
Yeah.
think the competition is so high that people are doing a lot of things in college, right? They're doing some
Absolutely. Yeah.
side gigs, they're doing their own entrepreneurship stints, and there's like there's some projects that they take up in their college. It could be just a random vada pav stand that they set up in their own college. Could be
Yeah.
anything that they're doing, right?
Yeah.
Point is highlighting those things. And I've seen some great engineering or MBA college students who've not done any job, their profiles. Some people do a good job
Hmm.
at it. So they're like, they
Yeah.
actually highlight it in the right fashion without over aggrandizing it as well. And yeah, there's nothing wrong in creating one. Is there a benefit? Could be, could not be, right?
Okay.
There's a lot
Yeah.
based on luck also, right place, right time, like we all say in job search or sales. But having
Hmm.
said that, there's no harm in having one right from the beginning. Nowadays, people have Instagram profiles for their 1 year olds. Why can't you have a
Hmm.
LinkedIn profile before you step into the job role that you want to be, or the job that you want to get
Hmm.
to? Because there are lots of things that you'll get to know, like LinkedIn gives you alerts, job alerts. There could be many
Hmm.
things that, or maybe pieces of advice that senior people are sharing with you. You can join forums on LinkedIn. I'm sure
Yeah.
there's a GitHub forum even on LinkedIn if it's for techies, for example, right?
Correct.
It's
Correct.
just
Correct.
a platform. If you can join Instagram, I'm sure you can join LinkedIn. That's my advice.
Great. Great. Great way to end it. If you are on Instagram, you can join LinkedIn too. All right then. So, you, as we are already talking about the companies, the giants actually you've been a part of. So let's talk a bit about their hiring process. What do you have to say about their hiring process of such giants which you've been part of? Again, like Deloitte, Michael Page, LinkedIn, etc.
Yeah. Couple of ways to get in is obviously applying for a job does work, but referrals work way
Hmm.
stronger if you're able to get somebody to refer you internally.
Okay.
And second thing, hiring process is always at least 5 step. Where again, I've had lesser, I've had more, but the
Okay.
usual template is first level interview by either an HR or the hiring manager, or HR and
Hmm.
then the hiring manager, post which
Hmm.
there'll be a technical round of sorts. If it's sales, it could be a presentation, uh, 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 role play. Sorry, I forgot the word role play because it's been a while since I've done it. But it could be a role play, or it could be a situation that they give you and they say, how would you do this? Or maybe make a
Yeah.
presentation. And then
Yeah.
you generally end with either one more interview, or then pass on directly to either an India head or an MD, depending on the size of the company. Like in Coursera, I interviewed
Okay.
with the India MD, versus, let's say, in Oracle,
Hmm.
I didn't have to do that. I interviewed with the India head, because Oracle is huge, right? There's 1.5 lakh employees globally. So depending on the
Yeah.
size of the company, you'll obviously get to either the India head, the VP, or somebody, and that's where your interviewing ends. But post that, there's a lot of process too. There's obviously the interview process. Then there is the nego process of your salary. And a lot of
Hmm.
people shy away from negotiating, but there's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
When you're negotiating with a customer, why not negotiate for
Okay.
yourself, right? Use those same skills. So yeah, you do
Yeah.
the
Makes sense.
negotiation, go through the job offer, etc. And yeah, that's the process. If you ask me just about the
Okay.
process,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't have anything more to add there.
All right. All right. So talking about hiring, you yourself have come across thousands of resumes, right? So what
Yes.
do you mean by a good resume? And exactly if you can talk about a few do's and don'ts in a resume.
Um, One huge don't is, please don't make it too long. Nobody's reading a
Okay.
resume. I have,
Hmm.
so by the way, the average time that a recruiter spends on a resume is approximately, I think, 15 seconds or something. That's the average that we used to say in
Okay.
Michael Page. And that's the average that I would
Okay.
do. So I would skim through, I look at the headlines, I look at some interesting pointers, and only if I find it interesting will I go deeper, right? And the
Yeah.
deeper
Yeah.
also is another minute, maybe not more.
Yeah.
So it is very important that you keep it crisp and
Hmm.
understand that a resume is not you. It is a trailer to the movie that is you, or an ad
Yeah.
to the product that is you. I think let's not call ourselves
Okay.
products. I think a movie sounds like a better
Yeah.
analogy to
Yeah.
draw,
Yeah.
but it's like a trailer
Yeah.
that you're showing them. So if you write
Yeah.
everything in the trailer, then what will you show in the movie, which is the interview? There's nothing left.
Mhm.
Always keep something,
Makes
but
sense.
keep the details.
Yeah.
Highlight the, you know um, match highlights, or whatever you want to call it. So it's very important to write a crisp resume, but at the same time, don't make it like this uh, dictionary or thesaurus that you've planted in. That's something that a lot of people
Okay.
do, and I think chat GPT coming in, such nice flowery words that go in, there's nothing wrong in using that. It's great, it makes it look
Yeah.
professional, but keep it crisp. I have
Yeah.
seen very senior people have resumes which are 3 pages, 4 pages, and I'm like, I can't go through this. That itself is a huge turn off. I see that and I think, oh, not
Yeah.
professional enough, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying you should do a 1 pager. Maybe it's 2 pages. Maybe it's two
Yeah.
sides. I mean,
Yeah.
But having said that, it shows when you're crisp enough and maybe you bold the right words,
Mm.
etc. Make it more bullet for point format instead of making it really long
A
and
paragraph.
paragraph, because nobody's going to read it, honestly.
Mm.
Yeah. So
Correct.
don't make the resume for yourself, make it for the
Hmm.
reader. And yeah, it should work wonders for you.
Great. All right. So, talking about resume, if we talk about cover letters, so what is the difference between a resume and a cover letter? And do you think cover letters hold that much of importance?
So, whenever I have filled a job application and I've seen a cover
Yeah.
letter, I have filled it only a
Mhm.
few times where I thought it was really important to. I'll
Okay.
tell you why. Because I don't know how many people really read the cover letter. It's like when you click on a LinkedIn profile, before opening,
Hmm.
there's like a small excerpt, right? Cover letter
Okay.
is like a small excerpt of your resume before really opening. So if
Okay.
I
Okay.
want to fill a cover letter, I wouldn't make it a
Mm.
paragraph. I would make it 4 lines where I'm talking about why am I relevant or how am I relevant for this particular job that you are hiring. That's it. There is no point of adding anything else, because that's what they want to know. That's what they are going to want to know from your resume. Are you relevant for the job? Why don't you tell them that upfront? That's what your cover
Yeah.
letter should be. But again, yeah, people write histories out there. There's no point because nobody's going to read it. That's the whole thing.
I believe that will be a great insight for all our viewers right now. I guess you must have taken a lot of interviews in your journey, right? So, is there
Yes.
any specific or a special story or an incident which you would like to share with our audience?
There are
Any
many.
interview experience you're having?
There are multiple, but one really stuck with me because the person stepped in was so humble, and yeah, I didn't know how it will turn out. But when I started hearing about her accomplishments, I was just wowed. I was like, wow, oh, you're running a business on the side. Plus, you've actually done this from scratch and then done this. While the resume did say something about each of the things, but there was no
Mhm.
aggrandization, nothing in the resume. It was a very nice resume. It was impressive, but I didn't know what all she'd done. So the conversation was so gripping, and the
Mhm.
personality, executive presence really shown. And I
Mhm.
love such interviews where you meet somebody with good executive presence, good experience, even you're learning in the process. That's it turns out to be such a good mutual experience. So
Actually,
yeah, there are
actually, yeah.
many such, but that would be an essence of a good interview experience for me personally.
Okay, okay. All right, all right, all right. So I believe I'll move on to the very last question of the session. And I just wanted to know, as we are talking about the interviews, again, I would like to, you if you can showcase the audience a few mistakes they do while in an interview, apart from the resumes and
Yeah.
cover letters, being a person in front of you, if there are a few mistakes which people usually do, which they obviously shouldn't, which might increase their chances of being recruited.
I think the biggest or the most common thing that people don't focus on is body language,
Okay.
which turns out to be very important in an interview. I know we're in a virtual world, but in the end, you are going to have one physical interview for sure because everybody wants to gauge who are you, and who are you
Mm,
speaks from your body language, right? And there's no
correct.
mantra to it. There are many people giving all these courses on your LinkedIn's, Coursera's, everywhere on body language. People don't focus on it.
Yeah.
And we did have a lot of such sessions that were done for us in a couple of companies who really focused on it, and that helped me as a person to really improve my exec presence over time. I think that would be my tip to people, because obviously you know what you've done in your career. If you know it, you're going
Correct.
to speak it, right? But it's important to obviously practice that interview before, because in the beginning there's a lot of jitters, there's a lot of, you're going to space out in an interview. All of that
Yeah.
happens when you're really
Fair
early
enough.
on in your
But the
career.
fillers. Yeah.
I used to practice in front of a mirror. So yeah, that's the most common one. But if you could practice with a friend or whatever it is, one is practicing that interview so that you can actually deliver what you've done and you can speak about it in a succinct fashion is one. And
Yeah.
second is really focusing on body language. It, trust me, it sets you a class apart when you've actually done your work on even how you present yourself. small things from how are you making eye contact, or where are you putting your hands, to where how you putting your legs, and how your posture is, how you're sitting, everything makes a difference. You might think it doesn't, but these subtle things is what adds up to the bigger picture. So if you can
Yeah.
focus on both, it's very helpful.
All right, all right. Great, great. So I guess this session would have been, amazingly insightful for all our listeners today. So
I
we'll, I
hope
guess,
so.
wrap up with this. Thank you so much, Anusha, for taking out time on a Friday morning for us and for our listeners as well. It was a real pleasure having you on the show. And yeah,
Thank
if you
you.
can,
Thank
if
you.
there's something you want to add by the end of it.
Thank you so much. Pleasure is all mine. I really hope people have got something out of this entire 35-minute session that we've gone through. And thank you,
Yeah.
Sachin, Devyanshu, and Prasan, for really organizing this. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure is all ours. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And to our listeners, it's great of having all of you here too as well. And yeah, stay tuned for more such sessions. Thank you so much. Have a good day ahead.
Great. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you.